Hey y'all, so my family and I, we moved to the North Atlanta area, and we did so pretty much sight unseen. I mean, I had taken a trip for a couple days here to Atlanta to make sure that this was somewhere we wanted to live, but you can only get so much of a sense of a place looking through Google Maps or watching different videos about it. So when we moved here, there were more things that we thought that actually surprised us about living in the Atlanta area. And today I wanted to share 6 of those things that surprised us the most when we moved to the North Atlanta area. We're gonna start with number 1 that was really one of the most shocking ones, and that is that there are virtually no basements and very little sidewalks in the Atlanta metro area. Now this was a big shock compared to where we were coming from. Now where we moved from, there were sidewalks on either side of pretty much every street in the city. When we moved here to the North Atlanta area, we noticed that most roads only have one sidewalk and a lot of residential streets didn't have a sidewalk at all. It made us pretty hesitant to let our kids go for a bike ride or go for a walk through the community. Now it hasn't been as bad as we were expecting, because especially on those residential streets, cars are pretty aware of who's walking on the street. They're more used to people walking or biking on the road, but still that came as a big shock to us when we moved here. Now it's going to be better in newer communities where a lot of cities are forcing them to put in more sidewalks, but on a lot of the older roads you're going to find that that is either limited or doesn't exist at all, which was a huge surprise to us. Now the second one, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of basements here in the Atlanta area, and this one makes a little more sense. The foundation of a house has to be built below the frost line, and here in the state of Georgia that is typically higher than in a lot of other northern places. And so in the northern cities where you have to build below that frost line and it makes a lot of space for a basement anyways for the foundation, here in Georgia that just isn't the case. A lot of the times when you see basements, it's going to be on lots that have hills, and it's going to be more of a walkout basement situation. Now the other reason is that the dirt here in Georgia is largely a red clay. Now the clay expands and contracts more based on the weather, and since it does that, there would be a lot more wear and tear on any kind of underground development. So there could be more damage to a basement if you did have one based on the clay and soil texture that we have here in Georgia. But those were both just major surprises when we moved here, having experienced something completely different from where we were coming from. Now the second thing is something that I think we over-prepared for, again coming from the north, but there are a lot less bugs than we were led to believe when we were first moving here. The way you read about it online or on Reddit, different forums and places, it would seem like you are constantly dealing with roach infestations among other things, but we found that really throughout all different seasons, we don't really have much of a pest problem. Sure, there's the occasional centipede or a little gecko that gets into our house from time to time, but with what we were led to believe, we thought we would have to have pest control come spray our house every 6 months, or we would be living in a pest zoo, and that just hasn't been the case. So that's something that shocked us in a positive sense when we moved here to Atlanta. Now the third thing is something that we were prepared for, and it exceeded our expectations, and that is how many trees are here in the metro Atlanta area. Now we knew that Atlanta had a lot of trees before we moved here. In fact, it's one of the reasons that we chose the metro area of Atlanta when we were deciding where to move to. And when I came to scope out the area, it was in January, so a lot of trees were more bare than they will be in the other seasons. But having now moved here, experiencing all different types of seasons, it is just mind-blowing how many trees are here in the city and surrounding area. Both the city of Atlanta and the metro area as a whole have roughly 50% tree cover. So if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, 50% of the metro area is going to be covered by trees. And it honestly has changed our quality of life. Whether you're driving on major roads like I-285, I-575, or on some smaller residential streets, there are times where you don't even see any houses or buildings around you. You can be in the heart of a city or on a major road in the metro area, and it feels like you're driving through the woods. They say Atlanta is the city in a forest, and it 100% feels that way. I know in a lot of different cities, especially in those colder months, it can feel like you're driving through and everything is completely barren. No offense to New York, but some people just aren't about that concrete jungle life. And living in a city that really does feel like the nature is part of a city has had a distinct improvement on our quality of life. So that is the third thing that surprised us when we moved here to the metro Atlanta area. Now the fourth thing that surprised us is there is an awesome food scene here in the Atlanta area. Now depending on where you look online, you're going to get different opinions on this. Some people act like you can't say Atlanta has a good food scene without comparing it to Italy or other major food destinations. But honestly, no matter what type of cuisine you're into, there's going to be a lot of different options here in the Atlanta metro area. You have everything from fantastic ethnic destinations like on Buford Highway to very high-end options. In fact, the Michelin Guide recently came to town, and Atlanta now has 9 Michelin-rated restaurants, including 2 Green Star restaurants and many different Michelin budget or recommended options here in the area. And then finally, you can't talk about the food scene in Atlanta without mentioning the fantastic chicken wing options. Whether you prefer to get your wings at J.R. Cricket's, Clay's, or some more infamous locations, it is honestly a staple here in the city of Atlanta. I'm personally a J.R. Cricket's guy. Let me know in the comments where you prefer to get your wings. But honestly, all throughout the metro Atlanta area, you're going to find fantastic food options. Whether you're into ethnic cuisine, barbecue, or more southern soul food, there are options all throughout. Now, I'm going to get to reasons 5 and 6, but really quick before I do, my name is Brian. I'm with the Atlas Team Real Estate, brokered by Real. Me and my family, we moved to the North Atlanta area, and now as a local real estate agent, I get to help many individuals and families do the same thing. We offer a unique perspective where we can help you avoid some of the pitfalls and difficulties that we ran into, especially if you're moving from a different city or out of state. So if you are thinking about moving to the North Atlanta area, make sure you reach out to us at our information in the description. We are happy to get you started on that process. Now, the fifth thing that surprised us when we moved to Atlanta is how spread out it is. Now, I don't think anybody was going to mistake Atlanta for New York, Chicago, or London, but it was shocking just how spread out the metro area is. For a lot of people, especially people out of state, you might look at Atlanta and think that the 6.5 million metro population is largely within the city. But the city itself, compared to a lot of other major cities in the country, is actually quite small. Atlanta has a population of roughly 500,000 people. Now compare that to the 6.5 million people in the metro area and you start to see just how spread out Atlanta can be. Now you do have the purists downtown who will say that anything that is not Atlanta is not Atlanta, or anything outside the perimeter is not Atlanta. But that can be confusing for a lot of people coming out of state. Atlanta essentially feels like a lot of smaller cities put together in one. Places like Marietta, East Cobb, Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Suwanee, Kennesaw, and others make up smaller parts of a larger metro area. And you'll find that a lot of residents have pride in the specific city that they're from, while still identifying with Atlanta as a whole. Now the downside to this is that if you're looking to experience all that Metro Atlanta has to offer, it can be pretty far apart. Places like Peachtree City, Marietta, Buford, while all being a part of the Atlanta metro area, it can take you more than an hour to drive between them. Now for those who are looking for the suburban family-friendly lifestyle, this can definitely be a plus because there are options like that in spades across the Metro Atlanta area and really something for everybody. But it was shocking to see just how spread out the metro area itself was. Now the final thing that surprised us, if you've watched any kind of video about living in Atlanta, you are expecting the traffic to be bumper to bumper all times of the day no matter where you're going. And really the traffic hasn't been as bad as it was made out to be. Now yes, if you are commuting into and throughout the city at those major commute times, it is going to be pretty frustrating. But as you live here, you pretty quickly can start to plan around those trips. Whether leaving just a little bit earlier to arrive much earlier than expected, or finding alternate routes, the traffic really is livable compared to what some people make it out to be. And outside of those major times like 9, 5, and around sporting events or concerts, we found that the traffic is not only not as bad as some of the people say, but sometimes non-existent. But those are the things that surprised us the most when we were moving to the North Atlanta area. Now, if you're looking to make that same move, again, reach out to us and we are happy to get you started on that homeownership journey. And if you're interested in more information on any of these different suburbs and communities in the Atlanta area, make sure to check out another one of our videos. Now, as always, thanks for watching and we'll see y'all later.